Wednesday, June 26, Judgment in the Millennium. Read Revelation 20, verses 4 to 6. What are the righteous doing during the 1,000 years, and why is it important? Revelation 20, beginning at verse 4. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image and have not received its mark on their foreheads or on their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. During the millennium, the righteous will have an opportunity to observe firsthand God's justice and love in how he has dealt with the sin problem. Who doesn't have questions they would like to ask God about a lot of things? Now, during the millennium in heaven, the redeemed get to ask those questions. If a loved one or close friend is absent from heaven, the saved have the opportunity to understand God's decisions more fully. In a new way, more forcefully than ever before, the redeemed will grasp God's powerful attempts to save every person who has ever lived. They will realize anew that everyone who is lost has missed out on heaven because of their own personal rejection of Christ. Only then does God bring final judgment, the second death, which is eternal destruction, on the lost. Read Revelation 20, verses 7 to 9. How do the 1,000 years conclude? What is the fate of Satan and his followers? Revelation 20, beginning at verse 7. When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, and to gather them for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore. They marched across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves. But fire came down from heaven and devoured them. For 1,000 years, Satan has had no one to tempt or deceive. He and his angels have been alone to reflect on the deadly consequences of sin. At the end of the millennium, the wicked dead are resurrected to face the judgment and receive their final reward, as we read in Revelation 20, verse 5. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Now Satan has a vast army of followers. Although Satan has suffered defeat after defeat in the great controversy, he is encouraged as he sees the huge throng of the lost. Not yet ready to end his rebellion, he goes out to deceive these nations. Satan inspires them to make one last great effort to overthrow God and set up their own kingdom. The term Gog and Magog is used to symbolize Satan and the unsaved of all ages. Satan and his followers surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city, we read in verse 9 of Revelation 20. At the close of the millennium, not only are all the wicked raised to life, but the holy city, New Jerusalem, descends to earth from heaven, as we read in Revelation 21, verse 2. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. At the close of the millennium, not only are all the wicked raised to life, but the holy city, New Jerusalem, descends to earth from heaven, as we read in Revelation 21, verse 2. We read that earlier today, and it reads, I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. The saints have been living and reigning with Christ in the New Jerusalem for the millennium. Now, at the end of the 1,000 years, the city descends to earth along with God, Jesus, the angels, and all the redeemed. Everyone is present for the final battle of the great controversy. Sin is about to be eradicated once and for all. And so to finish today, what does the timing of the final judgment say about God's character? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.